What is one command that Jesus, Paul, Peter, and John all mentioned? Welcome to Bible on the Go with Dr. Dan. You know, if you search in the Bible for love your neighbor, it's there. In fact, we have a video on it. But I did a search in the ESV for the phrase love one another, and it appeared a whopping 13 times. And the first verse, and really what one could argue is the most important verse, is in the teaching of Jesus in John 13:34, where he mentions it twice. He says this, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another." Notice it's there twice, but it's because of the example, the logic that Jesus used, just as I loved you. How did he love us? He loved us unconditionally. The grace of God came to us and he forgave us. And so now we can love one another. Throughout these search hits, we'll see this showing up from time to time. In 2 chapters later, we see Jesus saying this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. There it is where he flips it and he says, I loved you. The grace of God came first. The mercy came and the love came. Now you get to go love one another. Isn't that something? He doesn't ask us to do it out of our sinful state, but because of what he's done for us, right? Well, we see it again in John 15. These things I command you, that you will love one another, right? So there's one of those hits. Now we come to the teaching of Paul. In Romans 12, we find Paul saying this, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. So the Christian can be abundant in his love because the love of God came to him. And then in 1 Thessalonians 4, we see Paul reiterating, now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God. You see that? God's love came, his mercy came, right? Taught by God to love one another. What a powerful truth in the teaching of Paul. And then we get to the teaching of Peter, where Peter says, having purified your souls by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love, love one another earnestly from the heart. Isn't that something, right? How did they obey the truth, right? Having purified your souls. The only way your soul can get pure is by putting your trust in Jesus, right? And all that he did. It's glorious and it's great and it's amazing. And the two are coupled together. Forgiveness of sins, relief from the sin burden, and now the privilege to love one another. Well, we see John saying a lot about it. It starts in 1 John 3, for this is the message you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. Isn't that great? From the very beginning, because they taught it, the grace of God comes, and then the love of God for one another comes. And John makes this point. And then 10 verses later, we see him really nailing it down when he says, and this is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. Glory to his name, right? For the forgiveness, for the love, for the grace, right? That we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another just as he has commanded us. It's coupled so well together in the teaching of John, consistent with the teaching of Jesus and Paul and Peter. And then in 1 John 4:7, there's a song written about it. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. This is a comprehensive truth because God's love came to us. Now we can love one another, and in so doing, we show that we've been born of God and know God. How powerful and how glorious. Then we see in 4:11, beloved, if God so loved us, there's that condition because his mercy came to us, we also ought to love one another. First, the very next verse, no one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us and his love is perfected in us. There it is again. The two go together because of the grace of God, so rich and free, that comes to the believer. The believer can now joyously and abundantly love one another, right? And then the final one, when John writes to the dear lady, when he says, not as though I was writing you a new commandment, but the one we have had from the beginning, that we love one another. In the teaching of Jesus, Paul, Peter, and John, we find the Christian ethic, love. Thanks for watching Bible on the Go, Dr. Dan. If you like these videos, one of the best things you can do is hit that button called subscribe. It doesn't cost a thing, and you only have to do it once. And there's a link in the description to my book, Future Without Fear, Celebrating Victory in Revelation. Share it with your friends and tell about the channel, and let's share the good news together. Thanks. Praise God.